Okay. We're back with Ginger. It's actually a continuation of the conversation we had earlier because we started to talk
Yes.
about something and we thought, this is actually really interesting. So we were talking about Atlantis, and I was talking to Ginger about how the higher being that I'd met in Atlantis had told me. I mean, part of the initial conversation had been, where am I? Oh, you're in Atlantis. And I said, I thought Atlantis sank. And he said, no, darling, humanity did. Um, but I was saying to Ginger that I perceived Atlantis to be in this realm, but it's just that it's like a higher vibration. It's like spinning faster than what we currently are. And that it's we're not that far away from it. Our vibration of humanity's raised a huge amount. But also I came across something earlier, or somebody earlier talking about how they'd cut us off. The Atlanteans had cut us off. And I thought, yeah, because I haven't dreamt about this Atlantean being for quite some time. And I wouldn't be surprised that they hadn't cut us off. And what was the reasoning that you were saying, Ginger, with regards to that?
Well, it made perfect sense to me because I see everything on the micro and the macro. What happens in my little world is happening in the everywhere else land. And so we've done a lot of cord cutting healing. That's sort of a common term for healers now, is to do cord cutting ceremonies. And we're cutting cords with old beliefs and old relationships. And why wouldn't the Atlanteans have to do the same? We've created a big mess here, and we've got broken systems everywhere and an unwillingness to really take responsibility for that. We keep looking for somebody else to come along and fix the problems that, well, we've agreed to. We
Yeah,
said yes to this. We're
yeah.
not saying no. We're quite silent. And but on some level, we are screaming no. So here we are again in this Gemini moon, and we're being asked to speak it into being. And so I think that if there ever was to be another connection, a link to the Atlantean energy, it would have to be because we've cleaned up our vibration, because they've gone ahead. We're all ascending. The Atlanteans too. That
Yeah,
energy still exists.
yeah.
It's all part of who we are.
Did you ever
It's
see
just energy.
did you ever see the Stargate series?
I'm familiar with it.
Because I watched the whole lot, and it's like 10 seasons, I think. And
Yes.
this is years ago. But I thought that although they depicted the concept of the Atlanteans really well, and the separation between the Atlanteans and our reality, and how they couldn't interfere, how any step that they took, they couldn't interfere with. But they also had a section of it where they had one of their guys that had become rogue that was doing really nasty stuff down here, and they couldn't interfere with that either. And one of
And this
the
is it. This is how it is. And we do that to ourselves. I receive guidance, and in the past I haven't always listened. And boy, I know better now, but I haven't always listened to the guidance that I was receiving. My ego had more control of my daily life. So I do see that, there is only guidance that we can offer, and there's only guidance that is offered to us. At the end of it all, we have to take control of our lives and the energy that we're emitting. Nobody else. There is no mystery alien machine. None of that exists, only in our minds. It's all part of the illusion. It's all theory. Absolutely everything is theory. It's unproven.
I mean, I was reading quite recently that, like, maybe this afternoon, somebody put a meme up there was saying, like, how could anybody not have heard this information by now? And that actually, you would be remarkably surprised
Mm-hmm.
because their bubble is a different bubble than the bubble that you and I are living in, just as another bubble might be a completely different bubble. So some people might be sitting with a computer in front of them with all this information coming through and what have you, and they could be absorbing all this information, expecting an alien invasion the day after tomorrow, and expecting a volcano to explode over in I mean, I don't even know what's happening with that volcano over in what was it last year? Somewhere in the Atlantic. It was in it wasn't Tenerife, but it was near Tenerife. Anyway, beside the point. But the point is that that I've lost the plot. So,
Gemini moon.
uh,
Gemini moon, something else was incoming. But I follow what you're saying. Like we're all vibrating at a different rate. And so there are many invisible energies around us, and people have a different way of experiencing it. Some will see ghosts, some think they're seeing demons.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
really what it is, it's thought brought to life. So if we're in a state of fear, we're going to be shown more reasons to be afraid. And we start to vibrate in that fear realm, then we're going to get, it's going to pile up, not a good feeling. So what we want to do is take a deep breath, clear that, and say, no, I've got the wheel here. That's not happening today. And I'm going to create a different story now for me to venture into. So you just take your mind in an entirely different direction. You think of the pretty things.
Well, I mean, realistically, I mean, if you've got a ghost appearing in front of you on a nightly basis or a daily basis or living in your house or whatever, then very much you're living with that reality. But the one thing that I know that from my past experience of it is you have to overcome your fear of it. So it's like
Yes,
standing with a ghost and saying, "Oh, hello. Well, okay, what are you going to do to me today? Like, are you going to make it even more scary? Are you going to be wearing a scarier mask? Or are you going to flick a few light switches? Or, like,
yeah.
what's the thing you're going to do today to scare me?" And then kind of face it, kind of say, "Well, okay, well, that was scary. Yep, you turned the light off. That was scary. You want to turn it back on
Well,
again for me?" Okay.
the movie Monsters Inc. comes to mind. Have you seen the movie?
I think I saw it a long time ago, but I might
They
watch it
have to
again.
scare the children. Their job is to scare the children at night in their dreams.
Mm,
And when they scare the children, they're stealing our energy. They're harvesting our energy.
mm.
They seek those kinds of that fear. They're seeking the fear energy. They're just waiting for us to say that was terrifying, and then it's an interesting little kids movie, but it's telling us a lot more than I think we realize.
I need to go back and watch it again because, again, it's part of overcoming fear. If you could take that in a package and then transfer it over here, and it's part of us being responsible for the world we live in, and everybody's got a different idea about what it means to be responsible and what have you. But my personal take on being responsible is actually being responsible for my own state of mind. And if there's something here that needs to be dealt with, then deal with it. And then,
That's all we can control, Kim. That's why the Atlanteans have cut cord or cut ties at this moment because we were too heavy for them.
yeah, but
And so once we realize that, and we can reestablish connections that are badly damaged, appear to be badly damaged. It's about vibration
because
and lifting our thoughts. And
I perceive them to be very close to us in relation to where we're at in a
yes,
mindset it could be where we're going to. And like you said, it could be what ascension's about. It could actually be a vibration that's slightly higher than where we're at. They might have cut it off for now, but it might also be have cut it off for now because so many of us were getting there and actually contaminating their thought processes, their realm, and they just went, "No, we can't do this. It's got too corrupt. It's corrupting us."
yes. Well, it's
Yeah,
the heart. The earth is an anagram for heart. And so we've talked a lot about heart and love and what does that energy mean? Following in love, so have they don't want to fear falling in love with us because we'll sink them, we'll bring them down.
so
Yeah, I mean,
you and
it
I
just sort of makes sense.
you and I talked a bit about a few weeks ago about love being a really, really hard thing to just feel off the bat, right? You say, "Oh, well, yeah, okay, well, just throw love at it and it'll go
It's a
away or
powerful
something."
word.
But
Yeah.
you've got to be able to harness the energy of that. And it's not always easy to harness the energy of that in this world that we live in because we've had different experiences than that. So then you
That's
and I
right.
were looking at that and we were going, well, you can always be grateful for something. You can't always love something, but you can always find something to be grateful for. Even the most
Always.
selfish, mean person, you can always find something to be grateful
Well,
to
you can
that person
have
for.
gratitude for a person that's crossed over, gratitude for the time that you did have. You know, it's not the only story, I guess is what I'm saying, is that we can reflect back on the wonderful times
So
that we shared here in the physical, and also I feel personally maintain that connection in the spiritual, because spirit is eternal. And I think in this world we've been that information has been kept from us. I feel like it's something that we can all tap into, and
okay,
we are already tapping into it, but we're unaware.
I wrote you a letter a number of a few weeks ago, and it was just called John pissing people off. I don't even remember that, but I had this neighbor that was elderly and lived at the top of my street, and his name was John. And every day, John would look for things to do to piss people off. So he did all kinds of things, like he would find young men and provoke them until they punched him. And then he would end up in court with the young men, and the young men would get into severe trouble because he was in his 80s.
Oh,
But then he'd get tradesmen at his house and he'd get them to do a job and then he wouldn't pay them. So he'd do,
oh,
uh,
what was that all about?
he just
That's a bad
had
idea.
all these qualities of the very worst person you could possibly imagine. Like the day we moved into this house, he brought a door around to replace a door that was broken. And he's saying, no, no, you have this. And I'm like, no, I've got it covered. And he's like, you have it. And I'm going, no, I've got it covered. I don't want it. You have it. I don't want it. You have it. I don't want it. So I actually took it off him. And then a week later, he turned up the door and said, you owe me $100 for the door. And I went, no, here's your door back. I didn't use it. I
Yeah.
didn't want it. I didn't use it. You wouldn't say no. Here's your door back. But he used to have this idea that he would create a problem, appear to be generous, and then come back and follow it up and create a terrible relationship with the entire neighborhood. He used to wait for the taxi to come and jump in front of it, and the taxi
Oh,
would have to swerve it. Anyway, so the point is that the world actually needs people like this because
I won't disagree. In
it
the state that we've been in, that's where we've been.
it actually teaches people to be responsible for their own stuff. You got this
Yes.
nasty little man who's going around and doing awful things, but then it makes them stand back. Like I know a couple of young men that were prosecuted because of John, and it made them stand back and go, no, I can't, I can't behave like that because I'm going to get in severe trouble if I'm going to behave like that. So John taught them
That's for
that
sure.
through hard ways because they actually had hard lessons because of it. But he was a hard teacher. And so,
I see. Yeah. Do you think he was an aware teacher? Do you think he knew that this was his task?
no, I think that he'd had an extremely, he was an ex war veteran, and um, people used to say he was a Mason and stuff. No, I think he'd had an extremely harsh past and actually hated the world and wanted to inflict as much pain upon it as he could. But the point
Well,
is,
again, the bully, I think, is expecting us to bully them.
yeah, yeah. If I don't,
And
but
so they're gonna get you 1st.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, and also the opportunities, it gives us the opportunity to learn and stand up against the bully and say, no, I'm not going to be bullied.
I think the way to stand up is through love again, allowing. And, that's not an easy thing, but we do it with grace. It's accepting that that's how that person feels in that moment, or that's how that person operates, at least in that moment. That that's their go to reaction. But it's an opportunity also. With every challenge, right? There's opportunities. It's an opportunity to demonstrate a different type of response. So we have control over how we react in
Yeah,
everything that we experience.
yeah,
And so we can demonstrate to this individual that there's more power in that grace than there is in that nasty bullying. And that's what I think we're all about to discover, that, this is what we haven't experienced, grace and ease for quite a long while, that we've really chosen the wrong path. And we've allowed ourselves to be led instead of allowing spirit to guide. That's an important relationship for us to repair.
okay.
But some
So,
people won't do it. Like, this individual may never choose that. And you're right, he is a teacher of all the things that we don't want in our life. This is not the type of world that I want to live in personally.
no,
I don't attract much of that to me, thankfully, but I'm certainly aware of it. And yeah, we have to be careful with what we expect the world to be like when we leave our comfort zone.
mhm.
If we're expecting good people, then we will find good people. And it's about creating a vibration of belief. What is it that we believe will happen? So it's tapping into something that we have not yet experienced.
And
And
that's,
so I think curiosity is of great value to us at this time.
yeah,
We know nothing.
yeah. I think perhaps one of the things that we need to embrace is that everything we need is here. Like,
Oh, yes,
everything we need is here. Like, regardless
yes,
of what level of that is, that just be grateful for whatever it is we've got, regardless of what we've got, because it in
gratitude for the
itself.
pillow. Some people don't have a
Mm,
pillow.
mm,
Can we not express gratitude for the smallest of things?
mm,
You know, really
mm,
great gratitude for the memories. There's good memories too, isn't
mm,
there?
mm,
We tend to not focus on that. And that's what's the challenge for me with my gratitude journal.
mm,
Challenge accepted. I put
mm,
all my energy into focusing on what I'm grateful for. And
mm,
I allowed spirit to remind me of the
mm,
things that are important. And I
mm,
allowed, just allowing
mm,
and being curious. I think it's a muscle. Is an option. We don't have to suffer,
mm,
keep doing what we've always done. We can make different choices and
mm.
try it. It's not going to cost a thing.
And then on top of that, we've got this purging happening, which is the other side of it, which is the letting go of stuff, is the decluttering, the kind of getting rid of the excess and not having that greed factor, which kind of borderline relates to people who think that we're coming into shortage of times and that we need to hoard food because of it, which is kind of really dodgy because it's like a fine line between putting your energy into expecting lack and putting your energy into, well, I don't know about that one because I know a lot of people that are doing big prepping things, and I go, well, that's okay. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. If that's what makes you feel safe. But by you doing that, are you not doing that from a fear perspective?
I agree because, sometimes we can hoard because we're afraid we won't have enough. And sometimes I think it's very important for us to, in every moment, imagine the best possible outcome and but prepare for the worst. We don't know. I don't think we should walk through life unprepared. I
No.
think we should have um, well, the knowledge that we'll find what we need is most important. And so if we don't already have it, then know that we will find it. We'll find what we need if we expect to. But if we think that we're we're in deep, then if we're in deep water and we're not going to make it, then we won't. You know, the moment we give up hope, the moment we give up the belief that
There's
we
the two
can.
words. There's those
I
two
know
words.
those words, I
Hope
was
and
reluctant to speak
expectation.
it. A number of them that I'm like really uncomfortable with, and that is one of them too, Kim. Hope is not one of my favorite words, but it's sort of the energy that some of us need when we get to the darkest parts of who we can be, you know. So sometimes that little flicker of, you know, somebody said something that gave me hope. And so that's maybe okay in some cases. But I think that we don't want to hang our hat on hope.
No, because it's
You
in
want
the
to have what you
future.
need.
Because it's
Yeah,
in the future, and the future is like not happening. It's like not happened. It's not happening. It doesn't exist. And part of our problem throughout our lives has been us working towards stuff in the future that hasn't happened yet. And then we get there, we've put all this energy into something that hadn't happened. Then it happens, and we don't even realize it happening. And the next thing you know, we turn the next corner and we're hoping for something else.
I
But we
agree.
haven't even acknowledged the thing that we've been working for the last year.
We don't really give ourselves credit. You know, we're just constantly on that wheel running, and instead of reflecting. And this is the way the moon is set. You know, everything is set to ebb and flow and wax and wane, and you know, the planets go retrograde. That's an opportunity for us to reflect on the lessons that we've learned in the time that it's been going in that direction. And
Yeah.
now it appears to be going in a different direction. It's not really, it's still moving forward. However, there's a time for that. There's a time to reflect, but and a time to let go. You know, that's what the moon is teaching us right now. What can we let go of? What old beliefs are we ready to discard? What new beliefs are we ready to embrace? You know, what can we learn from this past year? You know, there's so many opportunities at every given moment for us to learn, but we have to stay curious.
And there's got to be more.
Oh, yeah, just when you think you know.
Just when you think, I mean, that's one of the like bullshit things about it is you just get to a stage where you're comfortable and then you get the rug pulled out from underneath you.
Well, because the ego then takes command again and says, "Oh, I know," but do we?
Do we? I
It's
think
too
that
many possibilities. Each one of us is having a very different experience. Not one person will perceive me the way I perceive myself.
no.
There are so many versions of me out there. I
Mm,
just decided to walk in spite of it, all of it.
mm, mm,
I can't control it. You know,
mm.
people will perceive as they're going to perceive, and I'm just here from the heart. And I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with the words that we use at all. I'm interested and curious, but I know the energy of what it is that we're seeking. So I work with that. And that's the energy that I allow and I invite, and the rest is blocked.
Do you speak a foreign language?
Fluently when in Cuba and drinking beer, you know, 10 years ago, yes. It was really good beer. Wonderful friends. And I don't know, somehow I was pretty convinced I was doing it.
It's only once, and you just suddenly started to talk a
It's
foreign
like
language.
the light came on.
Really?
That's what it felt like, but I really think it might have been the beer.
That's bizarre. Well, you just suddenly started speaking a foreign language.
Dos cerveza, por favor. Yes. See, you learn a little at least.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. I can
I
remember.
forgot it. As soon as we landed back in Canada, it was all gone. We couldn't do it anymore. The music wasn't, none of it was the same. Entirely different energy. For me, a totally different way of seeing the sky map. That was quite curious.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that yeah, I must admit the sky all around the world is so different. And the stars are such different sizes according to where you are. Like they can be big here and then they're little there. And oh, That's bizarre, really bizarre. You can't even get your
Complex.
head around that one. I can't even get
It's
my head around that
complex.
one. Mm.
I think we just give a nod to the moods that we're in, at least, and if you want to explore why that's happening, get a good app, and but what you're gaining from that is somebody else's perspective. You can write your own perspective if we really learn to speak that I am language. How am I feeling? And we're constantly sort of, I think, seeking guidance. And the guidance is already there. That's what I think we're failing to realize.
Okay, another question. Do you think that according to where you live geographically, you live in alignment with your geographic vibration?
Yes, yes. And when it becomes unbearably uncomfortable, you move.
Right.
I've moved a number of times. I really moved a number of times, but you have to, it's chaos usually that inspires those changes. And so most of us get stuck in a comfort zone. And that's been, I think, one of the greatest challenges over the last couple of years is that we've created and we have an ego about everything that we thought we knew. We've created our reality around illusions. And so it's been coming to terms with that. We've been tasked with coming to terms with that. And then this year, really asking ourselves, well, what is it? Do I want to be attached to the material realm and all of its trappings and this fake money system and fake everything? Or am I willing to explore the possibility that I am creating with my thoughts and that I can create the world that I desire? If I really put my energy into um, the possibility that we can do better. What would it look like? How would it feel? Using the senses again, build it.
Right, but the part of this you can only do that after you've been self-responsible. You can't
Yes,
do that by burying your head in the sand and pretending that things that are very big problems don't exist. It's a real
correct.
fine line between jumping on a bandwagon and being self-responsible. It's really hard to describe. Like you can use your manifestation skills in relation to your visionary skills and your perception skills to create a better reality for you to step into. But actually, the only way that I know of doing that from a very low state of being is through gratitude. And it's really
Yes,
hard to find at that lower state of being. But then once
yes, it
you
is.
elevate above that, then you can start being self-responsible. And it's only after you've learned the full extent of self-responsibility can you then take that next step to actually creating a world for yourself based on the idea that everything's there. I don't need more than I've got. Everything I need is here, and I'm just grateful for it.
It begins to unfold organically as we explore,
Right.
the teachings of, say, Esther Hicks,
Yeah. Yeah.
Abraham
That's
Hicks,
who I was thinking as
and
well.
just even to use that on a daily basis and allow your mind to wander into the land of what if, you
She
know.
she
And
did a
I could never argue with her. I thought she's not wrong. She's using common
yeah.
sense, that old wisdom.
Yeah, there's two things that I learned from Esther Hicks. One was carrying $50 around in my wallet, $50 note that I never spent, and walking around and going, I can afford that. I could buy that if I wanted. I could buy that if I wanted. And it changed my mindset from poverty to abundant in the allowance that I could actually afford that. I could actually afford that. And that language that says, you say, Ginger says to me, do you want to go to a concert? And I go, oh no, I can't afford it. I can't come. So she changed that wording and say, well, actually, I could afford it because I've got the money there, but I choose not to at this time.
Yes,
So she taught me about the $50 thing, and I thought that was a great thing. And
I think
then
it's great too.
the second thing that okay, which is kind of a bit I didn't understand about her is she talked a lot about being in the flow, but she didn't
Yes,
talk a lot about how you get in the flow. She talked a lot about what to do once you're in it, but she didn't talk a lot about how you access that flow. And
I
sometimes,
believe she was teaching us that we are the flow. We are the vortex.
uh,
We are the tourist field.
there are periods where nothing happens, and nothing happens because you're not brave enough to make anything happen.
We are creatures of habit, and we tend to stay on the wheel, the hamster wheel, I call it, and we do what we always do, and we
Um,
get comfortable. And it takes a chaotic moment like what we had in 2020 to get us off of that wheel
yeah,
long enough for us to wonder if there's another way to do it.
yeah,
This is the reality of the lights, the
yeah,
awakening has been about mostly, I think, having that opportunity to question things
yeah,
and to become curious about, well, is there another way I can do things?
yeah, yeah.
But our storytelling can be liberating or toxic. It's up to us to choose the language
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and also to listen for that little ego monster saying, oh, you can't do that. And, stand back and watch, because we all have that, because the ego is a trap. It's a bit of a fear mechanism, I see. And
It's got two
it's where
sides to it, though.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I mean,
I
you
think
can,
it's very good for us. I think it's a good thing for us to have ego, or we would never really take care of ourselves. We would not have taken care of ourselves at all.
yeah, yeah. The ego is like a necessary evil, but needs to be managed.
Correct.
It's like needs to be recognized. So you can say, well, actually, I was talking about myself too much there. Um, actually, one of my favorite sayings, Ginger, is that's enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me? And the amount of people, when you say that to them, say, oh, I think you're really nice.
Well,
But
I think you're brilliant. We talk about that all the time. Kim's a big shining star in my life,
thank you,
and I'm
darling.
grateful for you, Kim.
Thank you. But that's not that's the thing of the statement. If you listen to the statement, that's enough
Yeah,
about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me?
yeah.
That that would be the egotistical I don't know. It's just a joke,
Me, I, and
really.
I call it.
Yeah, like
I and
let's
I.
let's
It's
bring
all
the
about
subject back
me.
to
It's all
me.
about me. Yeah,
So
me, I, and I.
you gotta I think you've got to be like again,
allow allow the
fine.
ego, but decide like what kind of a world do you want to live in. I feel that the ego is like a guardian. It's asking us to protect and take care, and but it's also sort of that doubting Thomas. It's the part of us that says, we can't. you know and so if we listen to that too closely, we won't.
Well,
So
that's the other thing is I actually don't think that anything that comes out of my mouth is really me.
it is, though. It is. I believe it's your spirit speaking.
Yeah, but I don't think it's coming from anything that I do. It's just happening.
You're allowing, you're channeling.
I'm allowing it to be channeled through me. But I've got
Correct.
a speculation that our brains or this area of a head could be a transmitter and receiver, and that
It
there are
is.
no thoughts at all.
I feel as though there's a container.
There
I
might
feel as though there is a container of energy,
we might have like
and
an I
it's up to us to.
we might have like an iCloud for storage, right?
Yeah.
But this is pure speculation. But I often wonder if we're just like a radio that receives signals, depends on the purity of our capacity to be able to balance that receiving signal, right? So if we're too much in the negative at the point of the signal coming in, then I'll end up being angry and it's fleeting because I received that signal and it's distorted. Or
If we look at it
alternatively,
as a state of ease or dis-ease, so if you're not in harmony and if your chakras are imbalanced and if your energy is not flowing nicely,
yeah,
um, if you've got blocks, then it will be obviously a state of dis-ease. Not as we know the word though. It's the opposite of ease, which is what I think we seek.
yeah.
We seek comfort and ease. And who wouldn't? Who wouldn't?
Okay, so if we are this radio transmitter receiver, then the message comes in. My soul interprets the message and then I spew it out, but it's got nothing to do with me.
No.
I'm not
Well,
accountable for
yeah,
it.
not you in the physical, you in the spirit.
Right. Yeah, it's some sort of spiritual realm that's making me
And
receive that.
likewise, you can have a darker attachment, channeling. Some
Yeah,
people are really doomsday
yeah,
and they're casting a very dark spell with that kind of thinking.
yeah,
I think we're eternal magnetic, electromagnetic beings of light.
yeah.
And I think that that's our spirit. And we are having this physical experience with the support because of our spirit, because of that attachment to our spirit.
And I think that that big electron video, that one I keep coming back to with George Carlin and Bill Hicks, and where he says that there's no punishment, there's no reward, it just is.
Just is. I
And
think
where we
Claudia is
go,
right when it comes to being lighthearted.
yeah,
We get to a point where there is a weighing, and we're at that point right now where the leaves here in Canada, they're long gone, and there's a few that remain, but they're now the seeds are in the soil. We've got the first big snow on top. We're well on our way to springtime when everything that we've planted at this moment will be, they say you reap what you sow. Well, we're sowing it right now with our thoughts. Very powerful, powerful moment for us. And especially with the placement of the sun and the moon at this time, because again, the Sagittarian is fire energy. It's about taking action. It's about setting the arrow in the direction that you want to head. It's about having mastery over your own thoughts
and
and
then
focused attention on what you do want. And then that's a challenge because of the Gemini moon energy that we're in right now, because we're going to be given so many different things to look at. And if you know Mercury was in retrograde, we've all experienced the chaos that can ensue with
mm,
our communications.
mm,
And we've witnessed this. We know that. So we can prepare for that and say, okay, well, then give me the most important thing to focus on. Command that, ask for that.
mhm.
What is the most important thing for me to focus on in this moment? And then allow your attention to flow to that for a little while. And then recalibrate and ask yourself again and really keep your thoughts going. Your thoughts aren't going to be still, it's an energy, but you can guide it with some curiosity and some questions. What's the most important thing for me to give my attention to at this moment? And then follow that guidance. We'll get an answer. The first answer we get, I find, is spirit saying, this is what you need to do. And sometimes it's very soft and you can barely hear it. It's just above a whisper. And but eventually, as you allow that communication, and especially if you're accepting the guidance and doing as you're asked, this is why I say I don't argue anymore. I want more guidance. I want that to flow, and I'm not going to constrict it. I don't always like the answer I get, uh, but I take step towards it. I'm not always able to get there as quickly as I would like, but it's about building a muscle and allowing yourself the journey that spirit is asking you to have.
But it doesn't have to be serious either. Like when you were talking just then, and you were just talking about a message, and I, whilst you were talking, asked to see if I could receive a message, and the message I
Yes.
got was a advert from the UK when I was a kid, and it's for Cadbury's fruit chocolates, and it's like everyone's a fruit and a nut cake. Crazy for those Cadbury's nuts and raisins.
Excuse me.
Cadbury's fruit and nuts. You know, that sort of like, I go, yeah, right. Okay, thank you for giving me that right now. Um, so it doesn't always have to be serious. It can be
Oh,
completely random.
I heard a wonderful song. I came out of a stressful situation recently. And it was brief, so it was nothing traumatic. Um, but sometimes we are teachers in a number of different ways, not always gentle. And it's important for us to be firm and speak our truth. And sometimes people have a hard time hearing that. So it was one of those moments, and I returned to my car and I could hear a song playing. I think it's Jack Johnson, Calm Down. I couldn't help but laugh. I mean, it's a brilliant song. I love listening to it. I don't think I ever really was aware of it before. The timing was thank you, Spirit. I needed that reminder to shift that energy. I don't need to bring it with me. I don't
Yeah,
have to have dinner with it.
yeah,
I don't have to bring it, I don't have to tell the story again. It was an
yeah.
unfortunate moment. I don't have to give it any power. I can just go ahead and calm down.
I mean, how many times do you have a random instant that happens to you and it goes over and over and over and over and over, and you still, I mean, the person that did it to you has gone off on their merry way, got on with their day, they've never thought about it again, and you're sat here with that thing churning over and over and over and over inside of you,
I often
left with
liken
it.
that energy to like a freight train going downhill. Like you see that train coming and it's building momentum, and that wheel just goes faster and faster and faster. Some will call it a ruminating thought. I call it an energy. And when that energy builds momentum, it can be torturous for people and really relentless. And sleep is the only escape for at times, right? Or one of the best in my mind, unless you, of course, get in front of that freight train, so to speak, and say, oh, no, we're not doing that today. You know, I'm powerful enough to push that in the opposite direction. I can't make it go away, this freight train. It's huge,
Mhm.
but I don't have to let it go. I can hit the brakes and say,
Okay.
that's not today, not for me today. I'm going to give it my attention to something else. And so having a list of things that you really are passionate about, leaning into, like for me, it was learning astrology and having a greater understanding of why are we all so different. That was important to me. So I wanted to learn things like the tarot and have a better comprehension of the human condition. Why are we all so different? Where are we in this on this ride?
We are all so different. You're absolutely
Oh,
right.
so how
Completely.
can any of
I
us be
mean,
right or wrong?
as a child, I don't think that I could perceive that. As a child, I don't think I could perceive that anybody thought any differently than what I did. And therefore, it's like this huge quagmire. And as an adult, you see that all these different things for all these different people having all these different experiences for all these different reasons. It's like, whoa, amazing.
It's the matrix, or I like to think of it as a kaleidoscope, a
Mm.
bit like a kaleidoscope and fractals. It's constantly moving, it's never still. Even when we think we're still, we're energy and motion, we're emotion. Our emotions really drive that energy. So being okay with all those differences is really valuable. Becoming in learning to be in a state of observing and not trying to control others. We can't do that. Spirit can't do that. The Atlanteans can't do that. They can only watch.
But also interfering is such a big part of that because we've got this tendency to help people without being asked. And
Yes.
that's all it is just wait to be asked before you offer your help. So somebody comes around to your house and says, oh, Ginger, I've got the example I used yesterday was my husband's gone to the dentist, my mother's gone to hospital, and my car's broken down. and you're going, what's your response to me?
Well, my response would be, what are you going to do about that?
Yeah.
What's your plan? Because if
Yeah.
I'm your plan, you should probably let me take over from here. If I'm your plan, then let's go. I'll help, but I need to know what I'm doing. I'm happy to help, but I can't be partway involved here. If
Exactly.
I'm driving, I'm driving.
Yeah. So a beautiful response is what's your plan? What are you going to
What's your
do
plan?
about
What are
it?
you going to do about that?
Whereas the old me would have said, oh, your husband's gone to the dentist, your car's broken down and your mum's in hospital. Do you want me to drive you to the hospital? Like,
Yeah,
uh,
what is it how
but
can I
that's
help?
incorrect. That's it. That's the incorrect part because I'm actually interfering by offering part of the solution. So that's the bit where we tap into the karma. Or I like to see it as like a hook. It's like a hook. That's how we hook in by offering to solve part of the problem or offering to
I
solve
like
the
that.
problem for the person. As soon as we offer to solve, then we've hooked in and we've actually taken on their karma. So they don't need to experience the karma anymore. We've 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 adopted it. It's come all the way up the hook and we've got it now. And we're now dealing with their karma. So we're having all of those chaotic experiences that they would have had.
Correct.
Whereas if we wait to be asked, and a provoking question to do that is, what are you going to do about that?
What's your
What's
plan?
what's your plan? And it's
That's a
fine.
lot to deal with. What are you going to do?
And
Again, being curious.
it's fine if I say, well, my plan was to come to you to ask for help. Then you
Then let's
go,
do it.
but let me drive.
Correct.
Yeah. If I'm solving your problem, then I'm doing it in my way.
And I'm going to start with like your thoughts all day long. I'm probably going to ask you to take some deep breaths and get your thoughts recalibrated so that you can find your own solutions.
Yeah.
It's one thing to help a person in need with a drive or something like that. But like oftentimes we find ourselves in that situation when people are going in dark places. And sometimes they choose to stay there. We can't stay there with them.
Mm.
We can't stay there with
Just
them.
like the
So we try and light
Atlanteans.
the way.
Just
We
like
try
the
and light the
Atlanteans.
way, and then we let go, you
Mm.
know. But they can come for support, whether it's a drive to see someone or whatever it is. But be very clear about what it is you're asking me to do when you're telling me your story. Like, is it that you want my help or you just want a listener? So to be curious, because I think oftentimes we give away our power so easily and we're distracted from what we should be doing. Meanwhile, we've got a whole other list of things that we said we were going to work on today that's now been, derailed. That's gone. We're going to do something else altogether different now. And in what way does that serve us? Well, I do think it's important to show up and do what we can in crisis, but not everything is a crisis.
Mm. Mm. Right.
Just get curious and let people tell you where they're at and what they need from you. And, don't imagine anything for anybody. Just stay open and explore.
Exactly. Right.
We
I'm
don't
cutting
know
it off.
anything. No, and have fun with it. Like Kim was saying, enjoy it.
Yep. Okay. Well,
Oh, it's
thanks.
fun, Kim.
Thanks for listening. We just had to come back on and talk more because we just like talking.
We just love everything about this, and we're
Exactly.
really enjoying this moment. And it's a moment of creating with that powerful air sign energy where the
Yeah.
moon is in Gemini with Mercury.
Yeah.
Allow it to show you, and that make a record. Keep track of what you're being shown, and keep what you need and get rid of the rest. It's a fire sign. Let's go. We're in that fire sign. It's a good time to create new patterns.
And if you've got any questions in relation to that, like you try that and that doesn't work, just ask and
Ah,
get the
yeah.
answer.
Well, I'm always interested in hearing how other people describe this experience because I'm just sharing it with the language that I have.
Exactly.
We're all having the same experience,
Yeah.
and some of us are a little, we're at a different level, and but none of us know. I really do think it's important for us to be very curious and open and just allow spirit to reveal what's ready, what we're ready to receive.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ginger. That was
All
really
the best,
cool.
Kim. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was
Bye.
fun. Enjoy the day, everyone. Bye.
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 All right.